My name's Darren Smith. I'm one of the principals of Point of Reference. My colleague who should be joining me is Jim Mayer from Epicor, and he's in charge of sales enablement there. They recently selected our native application for Epicor. So he leads up sales enablement, and his team evaluated that and brought us on. So I think it's important to have his perspective as well as to why did they select a native application. So, 1899. In 1899, the Spanish-American War ended. In 1899, the lawnmower was patented, and Carnation released their first can of evaporated milk. And in 1899, the house that I used to own was built. And I spent 13 years trying to take that 1899 house and bring it up to modern standards. Gutted out the electrics, the plumbing, redid the kitchen, redid the master bathroom. Everything I could think of, re-insulated walls. But at some point, after 13 years, you go, stop. We're done. There's only so far I can take it. And that's exactly where we got to with our original application at Point of Reference. So we decided to take the 9 years of learning with that original application and all 360,000 lines of code and start from scratch. 2003 is when we formed Point of Reference. Now, Point of Reference was formed for the purpose of providing customer references, providing applications and content for our clients that need to get sales customer references, get them in the hands of salespeople to provide to prospects, help them close deals quickly and easily. In 2003, it'll be 4 years before the iPhone is released. It'll be 7 years before the iPad is released. But 2003 is where we built the application. The underpinnings of it go back to 2003. And that became the biggest challenge for us. Like the house, the infrastructure was never built to support some of the things that are key to us today. So that was a key criteria in us looking at it again and saying, what do we need to do? We need to rebuild. So you make that decision. The next part is, what do you rebuild on? After all, we've been on the LAMP stack and been all things to all people. So here we are in 2014, and we've been live with a 100% native application for a year on the AppExchange. So we made the decision that we were going to rebuild our application. We had a number of different ways we could have gone. Why might we go? There we go. Why might we go with Force.com? Well, one of the first things we did was we looked at our client base, and 90% of our clients were on Salesforce. So look at that further. Why are they on Salesforce? We think this is one of the reasons, the AppExchange, because you've got a ready access to all of these applications, 2,500 of them and growing. They're on this rock-solid platform. So that became the key for us. We were spending so much time with that infrastructure, just like the house, trying to maintain the infrastructure. We were spending very little time actually working on solving our clients' business problems with innovative solutions. And we wanted to get back to that, because that's where we started, and that's where we can shine for our clients. What else comes out of it? We have this infrastructure that comes from Force.com, right? But we also get things like the reporting and the dashboards. From a LAMP stack where you can build anything you want, you have to build all that in. You have to build in all the security that you want to offer to your clients with your applications. All of that we get to ride on top of and leverage as a Force.com application. So we're not focusing on the plumbing, we're focusing on the application itself. But why build 100% native? There's still options, right? I don't have to build 100% native. Key for us was single database. So over 9+ years, we'd seen the challenges that our clients had faced in pulling information from Salesforce and from our original LAMP application and other places and trying to bring them all together. And they were spending hours and days and weeks doing this, not just with us, but with other applications as well. And so if we could eliminate that, that made a huge difference in the lives of these people. They could actually get back to delivering to their clients as well, not spending all this time pulling this stuff together. Single user interface and experience. One of the single biggest things you can do to help adoption of any application is to make it the path of least resistance. Single user interface does that. So not only are we a native application, but we consciously chose to build everything to look and feel like everything else in Salesforce. Salesforce One, from a mobile standpoint, we built a mobile application for our previous LAMP stack application. And we spent an inordinate amount of time and money doing so. It came out the box for us here. Literally, when Salesforce One was released, I could bring it up on my iPhone, and there was our application. Now, full disclosure, of course, we spent some time making the VF pages in there a little prettier and more better user experience for everyone in there. But we didn't have to. It still worked out the box, and that was key. Again, huge amount of savings in time and effort, and lets us focus on what we're best at, which is customer references. We also get the advantage of not just our roadmap, what we want to deliver from a customer reference standpoint, but the Salesforce roadmap as well, that we can leverage all of that and bring it to our clients. Here's the new things they've built in. Great. What can we do to help our clients in the customer reference world? Now, I've had an application for 9 years. I've got an in-house development team that knows how to work in the LAMP stack. Now I'm building everything on Salesforce, on Force.com. They don't know this. We didn't have the in-house expertise, so I gave the option to people. You know, this is the way the company's going. Do you want to go with that? Do you want to go on your own way? And 9 months later, I have no in-house staff. We engaged with a PDO, a Salesforce PDO called Metacube, and they've been exceptionally good for us. They had deep expertise and knowledge in Salesforce, and they brought that to the table for us. So we brought all the domain expertise, they brought the Salesforce expertise, and that's how we were able to take those 360,000 lines of code and not just deliver in less than 1 year all of that to our clients, but add functionality we'd only ever dreamed of in the previous application. Again, goes back to that infrastructure and the plumbing. All of that stuff's there for us to leverage, and we know what we didn't know with 9 years of learning, so we can throw away the stuff that didn't work, keep the stuff that worked right, and take all the stuff that we wanted to do but never could and build it from scratch, because we're building the infrastructure again. We also spent a lot of time both educating and working with our Salesforce partner manager. So Drew Quinlan is who we work with, and the tech evangelist that is assigned to us as well. Let them know what we're doing. This is a strategic move for the company. We're making this change, so we need their support in all aspects of this. Get us in contact with the right people to get all of our questions answered right up front, so we know we're making the right move, because this is the lifeblood of our company, that we are changing. And they did that in spades and continue to do so. Now, this is the point where I would be turning it over to Epicor and have Jim tell you, look, doesn't he look fabulous? Jim will tell you why native is important to them. I can give you a couple of points on that. Hopefully at some point he'll arrive. But things that he has, goals he has as the Director of Sales Enablement for all of Epicor. Any tool he delivers has to be effective, efficient, and adopted by the users. The fact that we are native means that the effective and efficient part is already somewhat covered, because they've bought into Salesforce as a platform across the organization. The adoption side comes from us being native. It's much easier to get them to adopt something that looks and feels like everything they already use. Okay? So that was a key for him. Also talks about presentation, ease of use, scalability, collaboration, and mobile. Think about some of those key points. Ease of use, scalability, collaborative, mobile. They're all covered for us as a native application. It's all delivered for us, and we're leveraging all of that as we deliver our application. So what does ReferenceEdge look like from a big picture standpoint? At the top, you see the objects that we're touching, the standard objects, opportunities, accounts, contacts. Okay? We're starting right where salespeople are in the opportunity. That's where they're living their lives, so we're catching them at that point. You need references. Let's get you to your references quickly and easily. We're leveraging information from the accounts and contacts and then providing a whole lot more on top of that with ReferenceEdge so that they can search easily and ultimately find the references they need, get them to their prospects, close their deals, and then we're gathering all of that as metrics that we can provide back to marketing, to sales, to the salespeople themselves. But it's all within one ecosystem. We're not having to go outside or go to different places for that. And that's key from a client standpoint. The more that it's all in one place, the easier it is, not just for them to get our information, but to combine that with other pieces of information they have as well, other transactions that are going on. Jim talks about having outreach where they're trying to hit up clients and gather more information from them, and they want to tie that in all the way through the sales cycle from first touch through to they become a client, they become a reference, we're using them as a reference, that reference is influencing sales, and they can see that full life cycle, and it never leaves this single environment. That makes it a whole lot easier for them to drive their business. Here's what it looks like inside of Salesforce One. So, salesperson logs in, they've got a button right there in the opportunity, find references. Okay? They click on that, they're taken to a page where all referenceable accounts and content are available to them. They can apply filters to it. They select the accounts they need, they make a request. That gets emailed or chatted to their colleague, so there's no intermediary in that. Goes to the colleague, through that request, can approve it, comes back through chatter, you're good to go, here's the person that you need to use as a reference, I've already talked to them, they can take a call anytime in the next week. And then capturing all of that to feed back to the team so we know what's our delta on times, how long does it take to fulfill these references, who's not fulfilling them, all those sort of things are immediately available to us. Let me give you a sense of what it looks like from a desktop standpoint. So right now I'm logged in as a salesperson, Scott. That is really grainy, isn't it? It looks Control plus.
It's okay.
Better? So I'm logged in as Scott. Now, one of the things he's not seeing, let's go to his dashboards. This is a key thing that he can see. Another key part of our application is nominations, customer reference nominations. How do we pull those together? We want to know who's potentially referenceable and then track that through. And marketing often runs these sort of campaigns to get more references in to the program. So we've got a leaderboard here that we're working from, and Scott can see he's bottom of the pile right now. Maybe he needs to ante up a few more references. You can also see revenue influence right there across the whole sales stage. So we're pulling together all the information at every stage of the sales cycle where a reference is getting used, and ultimately driving the business over there, total revenue influenced. Closed won opportunities where references have been used to help close those deals. So right now, the program, the customer reference program, is delivering back to the organization to the tune of 2.63 million. It's very rare that sales enablement to marketing can easily quantify what we're doing in terms of helping the business. That's the number right there. And they don't have to do a thing to get to it. It's just there because we're tracking it all. So if Scott's in one of his opportunities, much like we saw on the Salesforce One interface, he can just click Find References, and it'll take him to a reference search page. Well, hopefully it'll take him to a reference search page. So right down here, he's got filters that he can apply to his search. Let's try and zoom in on that again. He's got referenceable accounts through the center, filters that can be applied. Again, from a sales perspective, they don't really have to be trained on this. They already know how to use it because it looks and feels like Salesforce, and it's all in Salesforce. User adoption, path of least resistance. They apply filters. Maybe they say, I want anyone who can take a reference call. Comes back to the results set here. Says, this looks great, AARP and affiliated. I get a note saying, oh, be careful with affiliated. They've hit their limit. So right over here, you can see that, limit reached. There's only so many times you can use this reference in a month before you're going to burn them out. So we're capturing that and making sure sales is aware of it. You can ask, but you might not get what you ask for. They make the request. Onto a request page. And it's going to go off to two different colleagues. Notice we've got Sarah and Colleen here. So two colleagues I want to send these requests to, different directions. I need a reference call. There's the deadline. I need director level or above. And off that goes. Send my request. Now, if I log out as Scott, and I'll log in as one of his colleagues, Colleen, there's the request. Right through Chatter. Here's who I want to use. That's when I'm looking for it, director level or above. Great, let's approve or decline. I'm cool with approving this. Colleen can see immediately who are the referenceable contacts, who are other contacts at the account that aren't referenceable yet. But maybe she knows them because she's the closest to the account and goes, oh, you know what, for your opportunity, actually Ed would be better. So I'll activate Ed and put him in the program, and I'll give Ed a call, check with him, everything's good, then I'll provide Ed's information to you. For the moment, we'll say it's Sherry, says she's good to go. I've talked to Sherry, she can take the call anytime in the next week is fine. Good luck. Wow. This browser's fun. And then I approve that. I get one more chance to say, no, you sure you want to do this? Yep. Go for it. Send that out. Colleen's now responded. Let's log out as Colleen and back in as Scott. And in Scott's feed, he's got the approval. Nobody else had to be involved except the rep who needs a reference and the rep who owns the reference. But all of it's been tracked and tied back to the opportunity and tied back to all the other metrics that I need to run my program and the value of the program. Now, the other thing that Scott might do, similarly, but earlier on in the sales cycle, he might need some sort of content he wants to share. So we're also providing that down here. What's referenceable content? They can apply the same filters or searches to this, pick some content, and then choose to share it with one or more prospects the prospect will get an email invitation link with a branded microsite with all the information that we're then tracking all of that as well. This is delivered through sites. So again, we're leveraging that infrastructure to deliver all of this out to prospects who aren't Salesforce users, right? But they've got access to this, and because it's in sites, we're tracking it all back into the application. So any clicks on these particular content items into the microsite, we can not only capture inside of Salesforce, inside of the ReferenceEdge application, we can also let the salesperson know in the last 24 hours, your prospect, Bill Jones, clicked on these 2 case studies. So now I'm giving the salesperson actionable information. We can also capture ratings here and then aggregate all that information back. So if I go back into, where'd it go? It disappeared. If I go back into the application, then I've got reference content right there that I can see how many clicks happened on the reference content, how frequently did it happen, what's the rating overall on things. It's kind of like the Yelp thing. If I've got 3 ratings and they're all 4 stars, I give that different weighting to 300 ratings and they're all 4 stars. And it's really important to get that rating from a prospect standpoint as opposed to from a sales standpoint. Sales says a case study is great. That's one thing. Prospects say a case study is great, and that opportunity closes, and you win it. Now I can start to make correlations to say, this stuff is good to use. It helps us close sales deals. These references are good to use. They help us close sales deals. What is the key criteria around any of those items that help us close those deals? What's the difference between that content and all this other content? Why does that get used more frequently or rated higher more frequently? So we're tracking all of that and we're able to do the analysis on it. Jim at this point would also talk about content and why it's important to him. So from their standpoint, that stuff you just saw on content, they tried for 4 years to do that, to build something like that, and realized we got it as a native application. So they can extend from that as a native application into all the things they want to do with content. This was a key deciding factor for them. At this point, I think we're going to a Q&A because my time is up here. So, any questions you got for me about ReferenceEdge or about just that whole process of making that decision, moving over to a native application?
Yeah, Darren. So when a reference made that decision to go ahead and jump completely onto Force.com, I'm assuming you must have had some customers that were using other CRM platforms outside of Salesforce.
We did.
So do you still support other CRM platforms? Or are you now exclusively, your strategy is tied to Salesforce going forward? Or?
So the question was about me. As a company, we made a decision to go 100% native, Force.com. So does that mean that we're cutting out some customer base? 90% of our customers were on Salesforce. Many of the others were looking to move to Salesforce in the next year. But it did mean we had some attrition in our base. And that's a key business decision to make. Are you willing to let those go and just put all your eggs into that Salesforce basket? We decided yes, because when you try and be all things to all people, it means that in some respects you're compromising, but you're also spending an awful lot of time making this work for Microsoft CRM, Sugar CRM, Siebel, Oracle, all these other environments. When you narrow it down to, we're going to go with the big dog in the industry, and we're just going to focus on the clients there, it gives you incredible focus and clarity. And again, means you don't worry about that infrastructure stuff because it's done. All you worry about now is the business side of things and focus on doing everything you can with your knowledge, your domain knowledge and expertise for those clients. So it's a tough business decision to make, but ultimately we couldn't be happier that we did it. It was the right one to make by far.
So have you seen a customer base recover then
We only lost one. And we've gained way more net new clients. Yeah. Yes?
You talked about some positive things about moving from the native app to the cloud in this platform, but were there some negatives? So you had complete control over the app before, now you've brought in a partner, you said they were quite good on the interface, but it's still now you're adapting to a platform that's different versus what you had in the stack before. Was there some regret that was lost that you then had to manage for now?
Excellent question. So what are the negatives of doing this? What things did we encounter that we go, ooh, how do we deal with that? The biggest one that you come up against right up front is the governors and limits inside of Salesforce. So the governors and limits, think of them as the guardrails to make sure that you don't send these massive queries spinning off into the ether and bring down the whole of Salesforce for the rest of the world. It's an extreme example, but that's the easiest one to recognize. So you've got governors and limits all over the place. At first, it feels like they're handcuffs, but the more you get into it, the more you realize they're there for a good reason. When you're in a Linux environment, an open source environment, you have a tendency to design what you need, go about it the first way that you find, and think that's the best way. And most of the time it is, but not always. When you've got limits in place, it forces you to think a lot harder about how you're going to solve this problem. And so where you hit those constraints, you start to go, is this really the best way to do this? Or are there other ways? So it takes you a little time, a little more time than you may have spent normally. But ultimately what we've found is it forced us into much more elegant solutions that we may have avoided because we could always take first idea.
Can you give any example of that?
What's the first one we came up to? Yeah, I can. We apply attributes to all of the referenceable customers that we have in any given system. So an attribute might be the industry that they are in, okay? So we have a separate object that stores the attributes that are the industry. Now, every client can be tagged with that. Imagine you've got 15,000 members of your customer reference program. Every one of them is tagged with an industry and with 6 other different criteria: products, solutions, region, etc. All the things that a salesperson wants to filter by, right? So when you apply that filter initially, just using a straight SOCL query, you'll hit the 50,000 limit of queries in SOCL. And it will go, done. Can't run this, too many items in your query. So then you have to think about, how do I break that up to make it more, not hit the limit? What you end up doing is you break it up to become actually much more efficient as a query set. Instead of doing this one big query, you break it into all these little sections. And it actually runs a lot faster.
So, but just so I'm clear, so how did you break it up in that example? Because don't you want the list of everybody who has that attribute? If that's 51,000, can you not get to it?
You can.
Region at a time or something?
You can. You break it up into chunks is what you do. It's the same thing that Salesforce does when you submit a big batch of stuff. If you ever do this through Data Loader and use a really large data set, you can watch it happen. It'll chunk it into 200 records at a time. So you're doing the same thing, but on a query side. So you still get the same results. It just actually makes it faster because you're executing much smaller ones at the same time. Other questions?
Questions regarding the ReferenceEdge product, right?
Yeah.
So you had the link for the content. You show the content and you can track and all those things, right?
Yes.
Does the content resides on Salesforce.com?
Yes, the question was about the content in ReferenceEdge. Where does it reside? All of the content resides in Salesforce CRM content, whether it's uploaded or linked. However, we have a reference content object. There are a number of challenges we reached with Salesforce CRM content, not least of which is the reason that we built the microsite, because The delivery mechanism on sharing of content inside of Salesforce, the presentation on that is in Flash. How's that going to show on this? It's not. Or on an iPhone. So we rebuilt it. So we had our own microsite to deliver this. But also there's a whole bunch of metadata that wasn't tracked there. As an example, you may have content that needs to expire out after a certain time, or you may need to have a review date on content. I want to make sure that all the content that we're having sales used is reviewed at least every 9 months. And so you want to have that report coming out to people for review, so you've got to have that tracked there. We want to apply these same attributes to the content. This particular case study is about these in this industry or these industries, and it's on this product and this solution, and you want all that tagging to occur as well. You can hit limits with your tags, the tagging environment inside of Salesforce, which is why we're doing objects to track it, because we have no real limit on that. We also wanted to be able to associate it to accounts and contacts. So I may have a specific case study about a particular client, or I may have multiple clients that are associated to an industry case study, and I want to tag it with all of them as well. So if you search on that name, they come up. All of those things meant that we built our own object to do all of this. Does that answer the question?
It answers. So if I have the content in Box or Dropbox, right?
Yeah.
Still do the tracking as you show.
As long as we can get the link from Box to be able to store that. Other questions, gents? I'm happy to talk afterwards as well. Okay? Thanks so much for your time.